I'm going to be blunt. I used to be the kind of employee who swallowed it. I'd be a team player, take the hit, and tell myself it was temporary. I respected the people who did that, because I was one of them. Then my company tried to get clever. I live in a small country and work in an extremely narrow engineering specialty. In the entire country, there are maybe 15 to 18 people qualified to do this job at the level my role required. It's the kind of field where you don't just hire someone. You train them for years if you can even find them. Because of that, our labor system is strict. Unions are strong, agreements are clear, and most employers don't play games. Mine decided to test the limits. This happened from late 2019 through the end of 2020. My team was 3 people. Me, another senior engineer with roughly the same experience 10-12 years, and our mentor, an old-school specialist with 40-plus years in the trade. Our mentor had been ready to retire for about 2 years, but he stayed because he wanted a proper handover. He was proud of the work and protective of the field. He wasn't going to toss the keys to the kingdom to someone unprepared. For years, the plan was obvious. When he finally retired, my colleague and I would step up and run the work. We'd already been carrying more and more responsibility. We were the ones clients trusted. We were the ones who got the calls when something went wrong. We were the ones who took the heat when deadlines got tight. The company was one of the bigger employers in our region. In mid-2019, they started whispering about profits being down. Nothing dramatic, just the usual executive panic. Forecasts, charts, and words like efficiency. During my annual review, I did something I rarely do. I didn't ask for a raise. I said it out loud. I know the last 6 months haven't been great. I'm not going to push for more money right now. I want to be reasonable. My boss, Mr. V, smiled and thanked me. My direct manager, Mrs. G, nodded like I'd just proven my loyalty. For about 3 months, everything felt normal. Then one autumn day, I got a calendar invite with no subject line. Just, meeting at 15 minutes. That alone was enough to make my stomach tighten. I walked in. Mr. V and Mrs. G were sitting there like judges. No small talk. No how's the family. Just the look people wear when they've already decided your future. Mrs. G said, "We've reviewed projections for next year. We don't anticipate enough workload to keep everyone full-time." I blinked. Okay, so what does that mean? Mr. V slid a paper across the table. An amended contract. I looked at the number and felt the floor drop. 80%. 4 days a week. Effective in 3 months. I asked the most obvious question first. Is this happening to my colleague too? Yes, Mrs. G said, as if she were discussing the weather. Then I asked the second obvious question. And our mentor? Is he finally retiring? No, Mr. V answered quickly. He'll stay. I waited, because that couldn't be the end of that sentence. He'll be at 60%, Mrs. G added. I actually laughed once, out of pure disbelief. So the guy who wants to retire stays, and the 2 engineers meant to replace him get cut. Mrs. G gave me that corporate shrug. There are reasons. What reasons? I pushed. She didn't have any. Not real ones. Just fog. Strategic considerations, risk management, internal planning. I walked out with the contract in my hand, furious and embarrassed. I just volunteered loyalty. Their response was to reduce my income and tell me to smile about it. I had a mortgage, 2 kids, a life built around a certain number. Losing 20% wasn't an adjustment. It was a punch. I signed because I had to keep the job while I figured out my next move. But internally, something snapped. I stopped seeing them as my company. They were just an employer now, one that had shown me exactly how disposable they thought I was. That afternoon, I started building Plan B. First, I did what any engineer does. I gathered data. I asked around quietly if other teams were being reduced. People in other departments who complained about slow periods. People who, frankly, produced less than we did. The answer kept coming back the same. No one else. Only us 3. That detail mattered. Because it wasn't the business. It was a decision. A choice to target our team specifically, the one holding the most specialized knowledge. When my mentor heard, he was livid. Not at me, at them. He said, "I stayed so you 2 could take over properly. They're cutting you." That's insanity. Insanity, but also a warning. They didn't see us as the future. They saw us as a line item. So I pulled my contract and the union agreement and read them like a threat assessment. There was a clause I'd never paid attention to before. If an employer cannot provide full-time work and reduces your hours, they can't control what you do outside the hours they're paying for. Restrictions against side work only hold if you voluntarily request part-time work. If they force it, different rules. I called the union lawyers. I explained the situation. They asked one question. Did you request the reduced hours? No, I said. They told me. I signed because I didn't have a choice. The lawyer's tone changed immediately. Then yes, you're free. They can't restrict your outside employment. And if they try to pressure you, call us. So I opened my own consulting business. Not a fantasy, not a someday. I registered a company, bought a domain, made a simple website, and started reaching out. Emails, calls, old contacts, suppliers, anyone I'd worked with who might need short-term expertise. I didn't steal clients. I didn't touch anything confidential. I simply announced, I'm available on my off day and evenings. At first, it was slow. It was humiliating, honestly. I went from a senior specialist to someone pitching himself, hoping the phone would ring. I watched my savings drop month by month. We cut spending hard. Good coffee disappeared. Then good bread. Then beer. Then anything that wasn't strictly necessary. There's a special kind of stress that comes from knowing you're doing everything right, working, planning, sacrificing, and still feeling the ground shift under you. Then, 3 months in, I got my first real contract. Not a tiny quick question. A serious assignment. The kind that pays. The kind that proves you can survive. I took it. Of course I took it. That's when my employer started panicking. Suddenly, not enough work turned into could you take on extra tasks? And we need you in on this project. They wanted my 5th day back without admitting they'd been wrong. I smiled politely and said, I'm sorry, I have other obligations. I didn't say my obligation is rebuilding the life you tried to shrink. But that's what it was. Weeks passed. My side business grew. I was working nights, weekends, early mornings, anything to keep both streams alive until I could leave safely. And then the news leaked. Someone saw my website. Someone heard a client mention my name. Maybe it was an innocent question. Maybe it was someone trying to score points. I don't even know. But I know this. My phone rang, and it was Mr. V. He didn't say hello. He said, do you realize how this looks? I said, I'm feeding my family. He said, this is not what we expected. I almost laughed. You cut my hours. What did you expect me to just accept a permanent pay cut and say thank you? He tried the guilt angle. You're representing our industry. People will talk. I kept my voice calm. Then you should have thought about that before you reduced my contract. You don't get to control my free time when you chose not to pay for it. His tone sharpened. Then work more for us. I can't, I said. I have commitments. He paused, then delivered the classic threat wrapped in fake concern. Think very carefully before your next step. I said, I always do. Thanks for calling. And immediately after, I called the union. Within the week, union lawyers contacted the company and explained slowly, like to children, what they were allowed to do and what they were not allowed to do. After that, Mr. V became a walking storm cloud. He stopped greeting me. He stopped making eye contact. He'd pass me in the hallway like I was a stain on the wall. That was fine. I didn't need his approval. I needed independence. 2 months later, I resigned. I gave proper notice. Clean paperwork. No drama. Just, I'm leaving. The company reacted like I'd betrayed them, which was rich, considering they were the ones who had cut me first. For the final 3 months, I did my job, exactly as contracted. 4 days a week. No just a quick favor on my day off. No unpaid extra hours. No bending. And then I was gone. Here's where the story gets better. My colleague, the other senior engineer, called me a month after I left. He said, are you serious about your business? Because I can't stay here. I didn't even hesitate. Yes. He resigned too. We partnered up, merged our contacts, and started operating full-time. For clients, it was perfect. They weren't dealing with a corporate filter anymore. They were hiring the actual specialists. And because our field is tiny, word traveled fast. More clients came, then bigger ones, then contracts that made my old salary look like a joke. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily because we were good, and the market knew it. Meanwhile, my former employer posted job ads. They didn't get applicants. Because there aren't applicants. There are names, people, and everyone knows everyone. A year later, my mentor told me he was finally retiring at the end of the year. He was nearly 70. He sounded relieved. So within less than 2 years, that company lost all 3 specialists in a field where you can't just replace staff. All because someone wanted to save money on paper. Last I heard, they've been trying to hire replacements for months and can't. They've started outsourcing parts of the work to people who don't fully understand the niche, and it's costing them in delays and mistakes. Clients are angry. Projects are slipping. And me? I used to think being a manager must be hard. Now I run my own company. So yeah, I guess it is.
That's where the story ends. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and see you next time.